What's going on, guys? I'm a regular guy with the Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Now, first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and cover a couple of things. You guys read the title, so you know what the video is going to be about. But the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do, because this already sparked up fairly quickly, we're going to answer a question off of Patreon from Anthony Alvarez. His question is, will we be traveling outside of the Tennessee area? What about East Texas as far as training people and whatnot? Essentially, it's something that we are looking to do. It's something that I absolutely want to do is host classes in other areas. But it's one of those things that is not in the immediate focus right now. If anything, we're looking at 5, maybe 6 months or so before we start running out to other places that'll host us and everything else. We're trying to get like the home front stuff set up here quickly. Now, the video request here is from 50 BMG. He's asking about the gun guy knowledge that nobody cares about videos, so here we go. I decided to go with some stuff on the AK because there's a million misconceptions on it, and here's one that I think will actually be of some use to guys that don't know. Now, first and foremost, the first thing that we hear and there's actually 2 different subjects today, and we'll cover them one at a time. The first one is that a lot of dudes will see weapons manipulation, or they'll see reviews that I'm doing and stuff like that of like the AK, and there's always at least 1 to 15 different comments of dudes saying, "Oh, well, you know, the AK is just super lefty friendly and blah blah blah." It's really not. It's very slow on the lefty side of the house, and I'll show you why here in a second. Now, on the lefty side of the house, there are certain things that we have to consider, but on the right-handed side of the house, we're going to go over a little bit why the AK is designed the way it is. First and foremost, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, and that's this guy, the charging handle. Why is it exactly on this side? And as far as modern Western, mostly, weapons manipulation, we have to deal with this kind of stuff all the time, where we're rolling the gun over or coming over the top and stuff like that. Well, this was actually designed for right-handed people. You have to understand when the AK came out. It was adopted in 1947. These guys just finished fighting a world war where their primary fighting rifle was the Mosin gun. That was a bolt-action rifle. They wanted to keep the charging handle of their next fighting rifle in a near identical place with their previous fighting rifle, because that's how dudes were manipulating the guns then. Now, also, when it comes to reloading the thing, on the western side of the house, we're used to keeping everything in fire control and stuff like that. But the Russians did not stay as limited to this specific ideology to keep everything in fire control, because realistically speaking, there's not a whole lot of reason to do it, really, other than the feel-goods. There's no real reason to do it. So the way that they had set things up is that when it was time to do a magazine change or something like that, the Russians would take their old magazine out. They would go ahead and remove that, get their and again, I'm so used to Western methodologies that I did it wrong anyway, to where they're used to coming up with their fire control hand, removing their old magazine, getting their new ammunition source, rocking that guy in, and charging it that way, okay? And then coming back up on target. That was how it was originally done before. We got into like modern arms and everything else, and the specific methodology behind how Westerners, mostly Americans, mess with rifles and stuff like that. So it's the reason why I touched on that is to touch on this. With right-handed guys, okay, realistically speaking, there's nothing that a right-handed dude can do that a left-handed guy can do faster. Matter of fact, you are still slower as a left-handed guy, because this is what you really have to deal with, honestly. With modern weapons manipulation and everything else, I have to mess with magazines right now, to where the more accepted ways of doing things is one of 2 ways. First thing, if you're going to mess with fire control, you can mess with your safety like so and get on target, which is no slower than, honestly, than having a regular safety selector on like an AR and stuff. I've seen guys get on these guns really fast. So we're messing with it like so, and we're getting on target and all that. And when it comes to doing a reload on the gun or whatever, there's 2 different ways to do it mostly, and that's to get your magazine in here and sweep it like so, There is a method that I personally like if you're coming out of a chest rig to come up this way and knock the old magazine out. And there's another way with your thumb to rock that guy out and then charge the gun. Now, the reason why I'm going through all of this is because there is a single really damning thing about being left-handed that slows you down consistently. Unless you have something special like a Galil style safety in there or something. Now, as a lefty, there are challenges that we have to deal with. Number one is the location of this safety all by itself. This at least doubles the amount of time that it takes me to get on target and start shooting stuff than it would take a regular right-handed dude. It's the price of, being wrong-handed. To where I have to do one of two things. Either I'm pressing the safety down with my thumb and then getting on target, or I'm just choosing to adopt a magazine well grip here and I'm coming up like so. But what I also sacrifice is controllability on the rifle. So even still, I'm still slower in that regard. And that to me is the most important. So it's absolutely not lefty friendly. Now that we've gone over that, we're going to go over this. This really irritating meme that I consistently see. Sometimes it's from dudes just joking around and I totally get it. But sometimes I get some serious hate mail from dudes that I guess don't like to see development because it looks uncomfortable to them or something. But a lot of times when you start adding things to AKs, okay, red dots, flashlights, stock systems, that type of deal, a lot of people start to whine about how true to the design the AK actually is. And you see this really stupid meme on the internet all the time. It's like, yeah, the rifle is fine. Yeah, it's fucking retarded. And here's why. The rifle's not fine. It's never been fine. And furthermore, the Russians knew it. Now, after the original AK, they came out with something called the AKM. They improved a couple of things, shifted to stamping rather than milling. And one of the first things that you started to see were these sight rails that were included to add magnification onto the guns. And later on, it turned into like red dots and stuff, even though the Russians have never really been good at designing electronic red dot sights and stuff like that. And you don't just see it there. All you have to do is spend 2 seconds Google fooing this, and you could cycle through a bunch of different pictures on modern era AKs. For instance, you have your alpha AK types that are used by their special operations teams and stuff that are just ninja looking as fuck. And second, you also see in the mainline army with their 74s that they've added rail kits to those guns too, because they recognize, just like everyone else, they recognize just like we did. And you have to understand that the Russians try to keep pace with us as far as innovation as much as they can, and in some places they're better at it. They're no different in the small arms in the ground fight world as they were in the aircraft world. Main difference being that they've never really been as good at producing aircraft and stuff like that we have. But the point is that it's one of those things that I liken to like 45 guys touting that the 45 is the greatest pistol caliber of all time. It's another firearms myth that's perpetuated by people that are forcefully ignorant because they don't pay attention to what's going on with like the rest of the world, basically. And what I think is hilarious is that when someone tries to modify or add things to their AK to make them more effective, there's a certain class of AK guy that really thumbs their nose at them. And what's really funny is that those same people usually own ARs and stuff, and they're ninja-fied as fuck. It's one of those things where it's like, well, it feels right on this one, but not on this one. Which, look, if you want to keep a rifle traditional, I totally get it. I didn't really add anything to this guy either. I totally get it. It's mostly because I really like RPK-style sights, and they're super effective. But you cannot sit there and cry about someone adding a red dot in an effective place with something like an Ultimac. They will be infinitely faster and more accurate with the same amount of training than they would be if they threw a set of irons on there. Same thing for a flashlight, especially if it's a home defense rifle. What is wrong with you people? But I know I got a little bit ranty there, but there's a lot of people that don't recognize this, because a lot of people just figure that the Russians have just kind of stopped on their developmental process of their small arms, when that just isn't the case. So, with that being said, guys, if you guys want to go ahead and support us through Patreon, we set one of those up not too long ago. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do, not just for the dudes that become Patreon supporters, but other things that we're trying to do, especially with providing like training and stuff like that to soldiers and stuff. Go ahead and check out the link that I'm going to provide in the description below. If you want details on what's going on with the Patreon thing and how exactly it's going to benefit you and others, I have a video that I put up very recently. And I'm going to also have a video put up on the Patreon page itself explaining what it is that we do. So, if you don't feel, there's by no means any obligation on you guys to donate to us. It's one of those things to where if you help us, we're going to give back as much as we can. But any further questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments box and whatnot below. If you are currently a patron and you want your video idea or question answered here and first, I'll go ahead and keep that into consideration. I'm already starting to document stuff that's coming up. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.